Good morning. My apologies for the delay. Thank you all for being here. We have a full house. Welcome. We're calling the hearing today of the joint informational meeting of the Assembly PERS Committee and the Senate PE&R Committee on incorporating equal employment opportunity into state civil service improvements. And I'm Rob Bonta. I'm honored to chair the Assembly PERS Committee. Thank you all again for being here. I want to welcome you and let you know how pleased I am to be joined here today by the Senate Public Employment and Retirement Committee Chair, Dr. Richard Pan. And I want to thank in advance all of our presenters for your commitment to present today and bringing forward this important issue. I appreciate your participation in today's meeting. Look forward to hearing your remarks and having a robust discussion today. And as the state is beginning to embark on a major state civil service improvement process, we have a unique opportunity to ensure that equal employment opportunity is integrated into those efforts. Continuing to ensure a diverse and qualified civil service workforce is critical to the state's ability to provide quality customer service to California's diverse, multicultural, and multilingual population. Additionally, we know that based on the latest analysis of state employee age demographics, about 40% of our state workforce is eligible to retire in the next 5 years, with over 20% of the workforce eligible to retire this year. Given those statistics, workforce and succession planning is critical if we hope to maintain the institutional knowledge that keeps our state departments functioning efficiently. I believe that both of these efforts, civil service reform and succession planning, can benefit by including a focus on the commitment the state has made to equal employment opportunity. I'm pleased to be joined here by my colleague, Reggie Jones-Sawyer, Assembly member from LA, and I want to thank you for your presence and participation in today, as well as Assembly member Waldron. Thank you for being here. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Pan to make his opening remarks. Dr. Pan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair Bonta, and committee members, and all the panelists who are here today, as well as all the parties that are interested in this hearing and the important topics that are on today's agenda. I do want to, first of all, apologize that I may probably be popping in and out because I also serve on the Senate Ed Committee, which is having their hearings right now, the Education Committee. But as Chairman Bonta said, this is a very important time to have this hearing as we are not only looking at civil service, but also the fact that there's going to be considerable turnover given retirements and so forth that are happening in our state civil service. And in addition to that, we need to recognize we have one of the country's most efficient civil services, given the low ratio of civil servants to population here in the state in state of California compared to other states. But as we're going to experience this turnover, we need to ensure that our future civil service reflects the diversity of our population. I believe it just announced today that the largest racial ethnic group is now actually Latino, is now number one right now, and our state's continuing to become more diverse as well. And also, we are a hub for people around the world. So we are multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multilingual residents here in the state of California deserve the highest quality service that we can provide, and that means that we need to have a state workforce that meets those needs. As the senator who represents this area, the state capital, I have a particular personal interest as well as to being sure that we have a diverse workforce. In fact, Sacramento has been recognized in census figures as being one of the most diverse cities in one of the most diverse states, but one of the most diverse cities in the United States as well. And so there should be many opportunities to be able to reach out and create a very diverse state workforce as well. I also want to recognize that we need to ensure we have diversity in terms of ensuring that we have representation for our disability community as well. So we are in this transition point. We need to also, state service is one that should create opportunities for people to also reflect the socioeconomic diversity in backgrounds as well in our state service as well. I think the state also needs to be more aggressive, and we're looking forward to hearing from our leaders in the state, administrators in the state, is what we're doing to outreach to be sure that all people are aware of the opportunities and have a path, and we're giving assistance to people who will bring a perspective and background experience from their lives to state service, who can help ensure that we enhance the quality of the services that we provide in the state, and ensure that the people of California have the best possible quality in terms of state service that actually reflects the reality of the lives of people who live in California. So, again, I'm looking forward to hearing from officials and experts today who can provide us insight in how the state can move forward to build this better workforce, a workforce that is necessary, that to build a California worthy of its past, and more importantly, ensure that our future is filled with opportunity for all Californians. And so I'm particularly grateful for this. And just in conclusion, also, though, want to thank our current state workers, even as we're trying to build a more diverse state worker, that our current state workers also have accomplished many great things, and want to just acknowledge that as well, and that their experience is going to be essential in transitioning their experience and their background to our new state workers is going to be essential, and we want to applaud our current state workers for their work as well. So, again, very interested in what comes out of this hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Pan. Let's go to Assemblymember Jones Sawyer for a few opening remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I may have to go in and out because I have a bill. And my best friend in the Senate, Mr. Pan, who will be voting on my bill instead of education. So I'll have to take off and go there. But I wanted to just say a few words because this is probably one of the most important things for me. I am probably, and I probably could say this, maybe the only member in the Assembly or Senate that's actually been under civil service rules. I started with the City of Los Angeles. I know what it's like to take a civil service test. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to be on a civil service list. I know what it's like to be picked for a job and not to be picked for a job. I rose to become one of the highest ranking civil service persons in the City of Los Angeles. I know what it's like when the political winds change, and that it was always the civil servants and it was the individuals that had that civil service protection, I think ultimately saved, and I can say this now because I'm an elected official now, we kind of saved the elected officials from themselves a lot of times. That's the beauty of having a civil service system. We didn't have the corruption that you may have known about in Chicago, New York, Tammany Hall. The whole purpose of having a quality civil service system is so that the public can be assured that everything will be fair and impartial. Saying that, I also was chair of the Mayor's Affirmative Action Task Force, where we worked real hard to ensure that we had equity in every job in the City of Los Angeles. And it is difficult, especially if you have a general manager who is not committed to it, because I firmly believe it starts at the top. And if you have a general manager that's firmly committed to it, even though you may have a mayor or a governor that's committed to it, where the rubber meets the road is in the hiring. And the only way you're going to get diversity is that feeling that your best person for the job comes from every ethnic background, and that you do not discriminate because of that. You will get the best workforce. And I think the City of Los Angeles, as it started moving forward with it, started to get some of the best employees, government employees, I think, in the country. And I think it was because of that commitment to ensure that you not only you picked the best and the brightest, but you understood diversity and how important it is to the workforce. And so I am extremely proud and happy to be here today to hear what I can do to help with the state system, for which I'm now a member of. And I will reach back to what I used to know before Prop 209, which has had a devastating impact on the diversity in the state. And I'm not afraid to say that. And hopefully one day we can amend and correct it so that we can ensure that the numbers of the majority population don't go down in civil service here in the state of California, but at least meets the levels that it should be. And so because of Prop 209, we're going to have to come up with some creative solutions. So I'm here to work with you to come up with some innovative, creative ways that we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones Sawyer. We're now going to go to our first presenter, Mr. Nick Schroeder, Senior Fiscal and Policy Analyst, regarding the Legislative Analyst's Office overview of EEO statutes and Proposition 209.
Good morning, chairs and members. My name is Nick Schroeder. I'm with the Legislative Analyst's Office. And my presentation, before you go into talking about how the Equal Employment Opportunity Programs are going to be incorporated in the administration's ongoing Civil Service Improvement Project, my presentation will provide background on the state civil service, in particular the merit principle. And then I'll be providing background on Proposition 209 and also on the statutory framework for the state's equal employment opportunity programs. You should have a handout that our office has prepared, and it's really just the information that I'm going to be presenting for your information. So the civil service was established in 1934 by the voters, and the fundamental principle of the civil service is that appointment and promotion decisions be based on merit, and the merit be ascertained by competitive examination. And in the more than 80 years since the voters established this constitutional framework, a variety of statutes and rules and court decisions and other decisions have built upon this framework to set the state's policies related to hiring, promoting, disciplining, and terminating state employees within the civil service. Essentially, all of the executive branch employees in state government are civil servants. And that, when I say executive branch employees, I mean excluding those that work for the universities. So it's basically those that work for departments or agencies are civil servants, with the exception of those who are in high-ranking positions like department directors, agency secretaries, or other appointed positions. Now turning to Proposition 209, the voters approved the proposition in 1996, and it amended the Constitution to prohibit the state from discriminating against or granting preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment. And basically what Proposition 209 did in terms of state hiring practices is it eliminated the ability to use quotas or any other type of system where a predetermined amount of the state's workforce represent a certain group of individuals. That being said, the courts have determined that certain programs that are race or gender conscious are still permissible under the constitutional framework. For example, the state candidate policies that collect and report data on representation by race or by ethnicity, and also in terms of outreach programs, as well as any program that's reliant on federal funds. We can comply with federal law if it trumps Proposition 209. And now turning to the government code, the state's Equal Employment Opportunity Program is established in the government code. And the purpose of the EEO program is to ensure non-discrimination and equal access to state jobs, work assignments, training, and other employment-related opportunities for all qualified job applicants and employees. And the most notable element of the state program is that it requires the Department of Human Resources to collect, analyze, and report specific data on the composition of the state workforce. In particular, the demographic data that's required to report include the makeup of the state civil service by race, ethnicity, gender, age, veteran status, department, salary level, occupation, and attrition rates by occupation. And this is reported each year in their annual census report. And in addition, Department of Human Resources reports data related to the Upward Mobility Program, which measures the advancements of persons categorized by race, ethnicity, and disability to better paying and higher level positions. And so I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have on this program before you go into the rest of your conversation.
Okay. All right. Questions?
Just real quick, you're saying that you keep. I'm looking at the data. I see the departments. Do you have this broken, or can you get to the committee how it's broken down by job occupation? For example, in the city of Los Angeles, if you were to go in the accounting fields, it's heavily dominated by API persons, and for whatever reason, either the place is friendlier, or I don't look at one job as just all people go to one job. Sometimes it's just barriers, getting hired in that particular job. But can you get us how African Americans, where are we mostly in?
Yeah,
what type of jobs and things of that nature, and Latinos and API, disabled women, where do we fall in as far as job occupation?
All of those data are presented in the Department of Human Resources annual census. They break it out by department, by occupation, and within that by sex and by race, ethnicity, and a number of other factors.
Okay, can you get that to my office or get?
Sure, it's available on the internet. Yes.
Okay.
So you can't get it to me?
I can get you the link, certainly.
Oh, okay.
Other questions? I just wanted to follow up on some members, Joan Sawyer's question, and I realize you probably have the data on, but I think he's getting to a very important point, which is that we can look at the overall for the state, and the state's a big institution. At the same time as we're looking at how the workforce moves forward, and when we're talking about both retention and, both recruitment and retention, also to look at, for example, are there disparities in terms of particular occupations or jobs? For example, we know that unfortunately women in state service still tend to be clustered in more low-paying positions than men, and there may be also racial breakdowns and so forth as well. And I think that speaks to the need for us, and I'm sure we'll hear about this in subsequent panels, both in terms of outreach and even the state playing a role perhaps in pipeline type activities as well, so that ultimately, yes, everyone's going to come up and they have to do the civil service exam, and we're going to be looking at, but we have to think about what's the pool that we start with, and are we reaching out and we're making assumptions about certain groups and not reach out when we're trying to recruit for particular types of positions and so forth, so that people aren't aware that they may have opportunities in those particular fields. So I think that's going to be particularly important. Obviously, many of these questions will be answered by people later on in the panel, but I think, again, it's important that as the legislature and as our research arm, the LAO, be able to help provide the legislature information on that, and so that we can do oversight and also work in partnership with people to try to be sure that we're engaged in the right kind of activities to ensure we have a diverse workforce and a high quality and diverse. And I think both those are actually synonymous and leverage on each other as well.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
And I think that's probably a question that the administration can respond to in terms of how it plans on incorporating that type of analysis, and also any changes in the programs that it intends to implement as part of its civil service improvement project.
But I think what we would need help from the LAO from our end is actually your capacity to do some of these analyses, so we would be aware of these things. So.
We'd be happy to provide whatever information you need, yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk. Okay, any other questions from committee members? Okay, well, thank you so very much. Appreciate your presentation. So next up, we have our Civil Rights Coalition on Why EEO Matters panel. And I believe we have Irene Tovar, Executive Director of the Latin American Civic Association, Dr. Alan Rowe, founder of the United College Action Network, and Dean Land, representative of the Civil Rights Coalition. So if we could all come up.
We sit anywhere?
Yep, just sit anywhere up here.
Is it here okay?
That's fine. Excellent. So if all the panel members can come up. And I understand that collectively we'll do this in presentation in 15 minutes for all three. I understand you reallocated the time between yourselves, and then of course appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. So thank you. So.
I guess I'm the first one, right? Okay. Distinguished representative of the state legislature, Senator Pan, by the way, I congratulate you on your vaccine legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assemblyman Bota and other representatives of the state legislature, thank you very much. My name is Irene Tovar, and I have a long history of working in civil service and EEO issues in California. I served as president of the Los Angeles City Civil Service Commission. I was a governor appointee to the State Personnel Board, and later on I served as its president. I also served on the Public Employment Relations Board, and finally I worked in the governor's office, Community Relations. So I can speak from experience in the EEO and civil service, as it has been my priority for many, many years. Quiero explicar al público que yo he tenido muchos años trabajando, queriendo asegurar que toda la gente de habla otro idioma, que tenemos que tener el derecho de tener trabajo, el derecho de tener servicios que de veras es importante para nuestra comunidad. For those who are linguistically disadvantaged, what I have just said is that I have worked for many long years in trying to ensure that there is equality in the employment process and that there's also better services to all the people of California. One of the things that California, the state government, must face and hasn't faced, and that is that the face of California has changed. And the state government must reflect that population change. We all will lose if we don't. There's no winners in this situation. All the census, and we've been talking about, as I'm hearing all these numbers say, there's nothing new, very truthfully. The data, you can almost get any kind of data from state employees. I mean, I sarcastically may even say they may even be able to tell you what ethnic group sneeze more often on the job and who doesn't, okay? That's how technically skilled they are in giving you whatever data you want. Bottom line is that we got to address this majority, this new majority population that is multilingual, multicultural, and they haven't adequately ever been served by the state of California. This diverse group is important for a very important thing. They are the social and economical driving force in the future of California. We want a self-sufficient, well-educated, employed with good paying jobs. By the way, that also helps the Social Security system because they'll be putting money into it. Taxpayers, they'll be consumers and engage in the civic and political process of the state. And yet, for example, California State University Chancellor's Office just released a statement a few months ago that since 2008, 30,000 qualified, and let me underline qualified, freshman students have been denied enrollment in the California State University solely because of budget cutbacks. Okay? Qualified. And the data now that is coming forward seems to indicate that those that have been denied enrollment seem to be coming from minority groups. The business community has expressed concerns, and I'm sure you've already heard it, that they are unable to fill vacancies due to lack of skilled applicants, and that some have had to go abroad to recruit for those jobs. The greatest enemy is in it. The greatest enemy of poverty is education and employed constituency. It is cost effective for government to have a self-sufficient population, and it's a legal obligation to fulfill and comply with EEO. The state, here we go again with another, the state language survey has already indicated what we know. There's over 94 languages that this state has to serve, okay? And yet, 30 years ago, the State Personnel Board approved the bilingual differential pay. You know what that comes to for $100 a month? You know what that comes an hour? 60 cents an hour for 180 hours per month. 60 cents for very complicated interpretation in giving to the public. Sometimes they do very complicated documentation. Some of them maybe even legal documents, and also to just correspondence, just to mention a few. Yet right now, there's vacancies in the differential pay employees. So we have the ability to employ people to meet the needs of this multicultural community that we have the obligation to serve. 60 cents an hour. I want you to remember that. 60 cents an hour. How can we in 2015 justify that? Okay? Excuse me, and I'll give you a few examples that they're needed in everything. In case of emergencies, in case of an earthquake, in case of the audits that usually happen to businesses that have to comply with certain things. Language bilingualism is very important. I'll give you one example to dramatize what it is. After I left state government, I got a call from my brother because I work for a social service agency, and he asked me if I could possibly reach out to this family who he had encountered and who needed a lot of help. My brother was a highway patrol officer, and he was in section, let's call it Area B, and the accident occurred in Region B. And what happened is a drunk driver rear-ended this family, monolingual Spanish-speaking family, and it was the father who was the driver, and it was the woman who was pregnant and had a baby, I believe, about 2 years old, and the brother of the pregnant lady was in the back. When the thrust of the accident occurred, the brother went at such a high speed that he broke the neck of the driver, who automatically died. The baby was thrown 150 feet into a region. They could not find anyone in that region that could explain or talk to or give comfort to that family. They had to go out seeking. Luckily, my brother worked that day, and so they had to bring him from that region to this region to deal with a family that had had a horrendous tragedy. Okay? How can we in California feel comfortable or justice or our conscience not move that we are not serving the populations of our multicultural, multilingual people? It is a crime. It is unjust. We cannot rationalize it. We cannot give no figures or anything can justify what happened. The state of California needs strongly to deal with this issue. We need to deal. And let me just tell you, and I don't want to take too much of the time of the other people, but as I sat here and hearing all the reports, the previous report, 30 years ago, or 28 years ago when I was in the board, it was the same data in different proportions, the same thing. The same thing on retention, on training, on recruitment, on all these things. And why isn't it that we have not done anything about it? Because the will is not there of the state to comply with its obligation. And also, because we in America value the human being, that everybody has a right to equal service. That we are not doing in the state of California. I plead with you that whatever influence you have, that we do what is right, what the law says, because it's there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. You have all the tools now to move forward. In California budget, we now have a balanced budget. We have 40-some, whatever number that are retiring. We have positions that we can fill. Now let's act. Let's walk the talk. Thank you so much.
Next witness. Thank you.